What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to see if you can beat Dying Light the Beast without weapons. What does that mean, you might be asking? Well, I can only use my fists and my feet to kill zombies. I will be using the UV flashlight to stun them, but aside from that I'll only be using the weapons that God gave me. Quick spoiler warning, I will be going over the entire storyline including spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, go finish the game and come right back, I'll be right here. With that being said, let's get into the video. Kyle Crane is back and more ripped than ever, even after being tortured and experimented on for 13 goddamn years. After the events of the first game, Crane got captured and was subjected to horrific experiments to learn the limits of his abilities. He had resigned himself to death until one chance encounter changed his life. A couple of strangers snuck their way into the medical room, one looking a lot like an old friend of mine. They took out a couple of the scientists and were beginning to undo my restraints when the guards arrived and stopped my rescue before it could begin. One of the scientists injected me with some knockout juice and I fell unconscious. When I awoke, I found myself strapped down to a bed, and not in the fun way, while the other scientist strapped in someone new right next to me. I soon forgot about him and focused on the man who had been doing the experiments on me this entire time. The Baron, a textbook evil villain if I've ever seen one. This guy makes looks sane, and that's impressive. He tells me that he's found a new pet to play with and tries to kill me. I blacked out for a second, only to come to see the new guy go absolutely apeshit on the surrounding scientists. The commotion unlocked my restraints and I fall to the ground unconscious. I came to a voice coming over the radio. I crawled over, grabbed the radio, and found a woman on the other end trying to help me. Not having much of a choice, I followed her instructions, grabbing a UV flashlight as I went. I ripped open a vent grate with the forearm strength of a damn gorilla. I squeezed my finely toned ass through the vents. When I got out, I tried to stand up, but I soon fell over once again. I was forced to find some adrenaline on a nearby table, injecting it to give me a burst of energy as well as grab a damn shirt. My nipples were chafing against that floor, I swear to God. I continued my way through the facility, coming upon my first zombie of the run. It would be hard to fail the challenge this early as I have no weapons at this point. With that zombie nice and fisted, I ripped open a nearby door and moved on to the rest, using my UV flashlight to stun them before unleashing a barrage of punches to the zombie's brain box. I finished off the rest of them before finding myself in another vent, coming out into a room full of zombies, forcing me to sneak my way through. I was still pretty weak and unable to take on so many at once. I made it through, only to have to walk down a hallway surrounded by infected behind glass. It didn't take long for some of them to break through, and Crane grabbed a weapon automatically. I wasn't sure if I could pull out my fists again, so I resorted to kicking the couple of zombies to death. I quickly pulled my fist back out and made my way to the elevator. It wasn't working. Shocker. And the woman on the radio was forced to use the emergency override. That got the elevator moving, but it also unlocked each and every holding cell in the goddamn hallway, releasing the zombie horde. I went in swinging like a madman, but after a couple of hits, I activated Spartan Rage and proceeded to rip through the zombies in my way like they were made of nothing, performing finishers that would make the Doom guy proud. After unleashing the beast, I got inside the elevator, ready to ride it all the way to save— Stupid fucking elevator making me have to climb up its fucking shaft. Further into the facility, the alarm sounded, and a bunch of massive doors began to close. I booked it down the long hallway, narrowly escaping before the final door closed behind me, leading right into the title card. I stepped out into the zombie-infested Castor Woods, and spoke with the girl on the radio, whose name was Olivia. She tells me to go down the path to the nearby monastery. I decided I wouldn't be using any firecrackers in this run, and kited a couple of zombies away from the door. Sadly, it was locked, and I was forced to climb up the side of the building, jumping down to a courtyard that looked oddly like a boss arena. Smells fishy. I made my way inside and began the process of clearing out the area. I went up the monastery and dealt with the zombies along the way. I even kicked one out of the window. The only problem is that I forgot to turn on the generator on the first floor, meaning I had to go all the way back down, give the generator a good pumping, and go all the way back up to finally turn on the power. With that finished, I came face to face with Olivia. I immediately do not trust her, but she's hot and I haven't talked to a woman in 13 years. I am not talking about the game. She tells me that in order to get stronger to fight the Baron, I needed to fight these special infected known as chimeras. These zombies are fucking roided up and stronger variants of other undead. Lucky me! There's even a chimera stuck in the monastery. I walked out to that wide open courtyard just as a giant zombie in a gas mask and sharpened bone for an arm breaks down a nearby door. Olivia gave me a machete to help me with this fight, but I immediately put it away and began to fist my way through the chimera's health. I tried to run away from one of its attacks and only succeeded in getting stuck on a tree in the middle like an idiot. The boss wasn't that difficult. The main problem was my lack of stamina. I was huffing and puffing for air after only a couple of dodges. Beast mode did help a lot though, allowing me to chew through like a fourth of its health in one go. This chimera was a bit annoying due to how aggressive it was at times, making it difficult to catch my breath. That is until I activated beast mode for a second time, and I was able to finish off the rest of the fight, which ended with an awesome execution where I tore off its arm and began to rip it to shreds. With that completed, Olivia comes out to get a blood sample, just as I collapse in pain. Without my consent, she harvests some of the chimera's blood and injects it into me. I swear to God, that blood is not sanitary. While I was having a nightmare, I damn near snapped Olivia's neck without realizing it. I apologized and Olivia gave me some new clothes. However, can I just say that he looks like a Chad Steve from Minecraft? I upgraded my bandages and Olivia tells me to go check out a house with smoke coming out of it. I was finally able to level up and I immediately unlocked the dropkick. Immediately. I jumped out the nearby window and blasted the first zombie I saw with my boots. I made my way to the house, where only a couple of dropkicks brought the beast out of me, and I proceeded to rip through the group of zombies around the house. Before I went inside, I explored the nearby houses and absolutely obliterated a zombie on a toilet who thought he could jump scare me. I even unlocked a safe house that was right next door. The one thing you really need in this game is a place to fuck off when the sun goes down. Nothing is worse than being stuck outside at night with no safe houses nearby. I finally met with the man in the house who tells me about a group of people at the town hall. However, before I went off to them, I decided to go around and get some more XP, mainly from another safe house. That is until I come across a strange Easter egg on a nearby wall. I walked through like there was nothing there, and found a bunch of Minecraft blocks in my way. Channeling my inner Steve, I punched my way through the blocks and the zombies that hid behind them. That is until something unexpected happened. Fuck! When the zombie grabbed me, my finger bumped against the bumper, causing me to kill the zombie with a throwing knife. I wasn't sure what to do about that. Did I fail the challenge, or does this not matter since it's not required to beat the game? I decided to chalk that up to an accident and continue with the challenge. If you think I failed, go wild. I made it to the end of the Easter egg, finding a solid gold train, as well as a bunch of gold bars. I even learned how to do hand signs from Naruto. The problem being, I couldn't find any of the gold bars in my inventory. They just disappeared. Is this some Polish thing I'm not aware of? While I was in there, I remembered my accident and unequipped the throwing knives, thinking that that would keep me from getting the prompt when getting grabbed. I left the Hogwarts Express and quickly made my way to the nearby safe house as the sun was slowly falling. After a good night's sleep, I decided not to risk it and just threw away all of my throwing knives, which was immediately followed by me falling into a horde of zombies. I finally made my way to the town hall, finding a pistol 5 feet from the door. I put that away to sell later. Fought my way through some zombies, but there were so many that I released the beast and began ripping my way through the rest. Now with that completed...
Surprise, motherfucker!
Ah! Good God! It's hideous. But beautiful in an ugly way. But mostly hideous. Ugh.
I cocked my arms like Henry Cavill and began to slam my fists against the monster's hardened muscles. I melted through nearly half of its health with my beast mode before proceeding to use the pillar in the center to keep the zombie from jumping at me. It wasn't long before I finished it off, stole its blood, and injected it into my arm like a vampire junkie. I met with the people in the town hall, who tell me that their sheriff is still up on the roof. I went after her, climbing through the window the monster had jumped through. Farther up, I found a wounded man, and when I reached the roof, I found the sheriff fighting off some of the undead. She damn near gave me a new asshole before asking me to help her restart the building's main power. I ziplined down to a lower roof, where I made a poor zombie go flying with a boot to the ass. I was able to get the power restarted, but I needed to attach a cable to the top of the clock tower. I scaled the side of the building until I reached the top and plugged in the power cable. Me and the sheriff returned inside, only to find out that the wounded man from earlier had been bitten. Crane, still thinking like it's 13 years ago, suggests that they just need some antizin. Sheriff says there hasn't been any antizin in years. Before Crane could do anything, the infected man grabbed his pistol and punched his own ticket. Wanting to forget about that somber experience, one of the survivors asked me to go take care of another beast that had been terrorizing them. Apparently, the chimera isn't the only monster I get to kill. I made my way outside, finding the destroyed remains of one of the beast's victims, as well as some goddamn nightmare fuel. For some reason, I went towards the monster. I just hope it's a nice, calm night. I think I know where the beast is. Alright, let's go. I made my way towards the source of the explosion and found absolute destruction. I searched the nearby wreckage, finding a radio, and learned that the beast had cornered the soldiers at a nearby church. I came way too close to a Volatile who got far too curious for my liking. It had finally left and I thought I was in the clear. I finally escaped the damn truck and scrambled my way to the roof. Also, if you're curious why I'm not using my flashlight, apparently the Volatiles can see the flashlight and find you even easier. If you guys thought this game's night would be like Dying Light 2's night, you'll be sorely mistaken. I reached the church, but the door is locked, forcing me to go through the catacombs instead. I tried to get through that section as quickly as possible, which resulted in me getting spotted. For getting stealth, I unleashed the beast and tore my way through the small horde that woke up. With them taken care of, I emerged onto the main floor, only to find a random guy hanging upside down. That is until he gets launched into the ceiling and gets his neck snapped by the beast. He escaped through the window, and a shit ton of virals began to climb out of the holes in the walls. I immediately climbed to the high ground to kick the virals to kill them with gravity. I followed the beast's lead and jumped through the same window. The whole thing took so long that it had become daytime. I pursued the beast to the nearby train tunnel, which feels like a terrible place to go into. May I also ask why Crane grabbed this guy's chin like that? I'm just saying, I'm kind of aroused. I made my way through the station, trying my best not to use my rage ability just in case there was a boss. There seems to be an awful lot of parkour shit in this tunnel for some reason. I finally reached the main area, where I found the decimated patrol in multiple pieces. At first I thought the beast was gone until...
Holy fuck.
My God, what the fuck?
The beast threw me away like a piece of trash, just as the soldier set off an explosive. The blast caused a minor cave-in, blocking me from the beast. As I'm trying to brush the rubble off of me, the explosion had alerted the Volatiles nearby.
Run, bitch! Run!
I sprinted my way through the tunnel, using my UV flashlight to stun them as I ran. My ass was so clenched I thought I made diamonds for a second. Really, I just shit myself. I finally made it to the end of the tunnel, a pube hair away from getting my dick ripped off by a pale demon. Wanting to de-stress, I went back to the town hall and grabbed a side quest for a guy who really needs a haircut. Before I did that, however, I went out and unlocked a new safe house at a nearby library. Got a shortcut finished for later in the game. Nearly died by trying to become George of the Jungle for a second, which nearly gave me a damn heart attack. I even played a game of flaming hot soccer, which resulted in a bunch of explosions. With the noise and the fact that the sun was going down, I booked it to the nearby safe house to skip the night. At this point, I was just going around the map to level up to level 4, which brought me to a giant smokestack that I can make into a safe house. It was so high up that one missed jump and I plummeted to the hard ground at terminal velocity. I thankfully didn't miss the second time, and I was able to set up the safe house. At the very top I found a treasure map to a nearby cache. It wasn't hard to find, but the entrance needed power to open. Oh my god, I seem to have spotted a bitch. I found a strange underwater section, and out of curiosity I swam my way through, coming out within the building across the street from the treasure. So instead I grabbed the power cord and swam my way back through the submerged section to make it outside. I must have done the right thing, because I was able to reach the building and plug in the power cable. That opened the gate, but it also released a couple of zombies, including a really annoying one that loves to charge at you. While I was dealing with them, I accidentally got the attention of a group of soldiers. At first I thought I could use them to kill the zombies. The problem was that they did too well, and now I was stuck dealing with them. I was able to get one of them on their hands and knees. Ow, motherfucker, was that a rock? For that, I fed them to a horde of the undead, allowing me to finally reach the treasure and the loot. What did I get from this? Pants! Moving on to a different safe house, I was trying to kill a military zombie, and this bitch would not go down. I think I broke a toe with the sheer amount of force I was kicking this guy with. To power up this safe house, all I have to do is zip line on over. All I have to do is zip line on over to the safe house. I am finally able to plug in the power cable and power up the spot, pushing me over to level 4. With that taken care of, I finally returned to the main quest line, stopping by the town hall to sell all of my useless weapons, before making my way back to Olivia to deliver the chimera's blood sample. While I was in the area, I went off to do a side quest for a guy from earlier, haircut guy. He asked me to go find his father with dementia as he disappeared into the nearby forest. I followed his trail to a cabin where I found an unfortunate jumping zombie inside, which made dealing with it very easy. I learned where the father was going and ventured further into the forest. That is until I came across an old cave. I made my way inside, getting a face full of Batman, before I am finally able to find the father, as he looked over a giant volatile nest. I tried speaking with him, but he thinks that I am his son, and tells me that he wants to blow up the nest to finish something he did a long time ago. I agreed and began the process of connecting the C4 to the detonator cable. This made me go through the entire nest area, making a mistake early on, but I somehow wasn't spotted after breaking my ankles. I was more careful the next time through, connecting more C4. Being forced to follow the cable far too close to a zombie in order to find any damage. I duct taped a portion of the cable back together, my asshole squeezing like a fucking vice as I grabbed the last cable. I leaped to the final few C4, and finally finished connecting the explosives. I returned to the father, and tell him that we need to leave. I gave him a hug. If you didn't give this man a hug, I cannot trust you. After the hug, he gives me a knife, pushes me away, and detonates the explosives with him still inside, killing him in the process. I booked my way through the now unstable cave system, damn near drowning at one point in the run. I continued my way through until I finally reached the exit. I returned to the son at the town hall and tell him about his father. With that sad quest finished, I was in desperate need of some badass gory fun. I made my way to the nearby convoy crash, where I found the remains of the Baron's men, as well as a cage that no longer held anything. Oh shit. I began to follow the Chimera's tracks, which lead me to a nearby island. As I was searching, a thick fog rolled in out of nowhere, and the final evolution of the vegan teacher came in Naruto running at me. I damn near shit myself. This is Mist, and she's a slippery little bitch, running away whenever I got close, and hiding in the thick fog. While I was fighting, I had to wait for it to miss an attack before I'm able to start wailing on the little shit. This is probably one of the more difficult fights so far in the game. Not so much that she was difficult, but more because I couldn't fucking catch her. Times like this makes me wish this was a guns only run. Let me know if you want to see that. This fight had been going on for so long that I released the beast multiple times, just for it to get wasted on the normal zombies that constantly swarmed me. That is until I finally got her low enough to activate the finisher move. Can I just say that if you can make a zombie try and run away from you, that's pretty badass. I got my new zombie steroids, and returned to the town hall to discuss my next mission with the hall's leaders. They tell me that the power plant had been shut down, and they send me over to restart it. While on my way towards the power plant, I stopped by another side quest, being tasked with taking out the zombies in the area. Although I did use the big guy to take out most of them. I was able to easily take out the big boy, and found that the town hall's men were taken out by a different group of survivors. With that jolly little piece of knowledge, I finally made it to the power plant, climbed up to the top of the building and ran across the roof, until I'm able to get into an open window that leads to the control room, where I found the foreman of the plant, a real cheerful guy if I have to say so myself, who is unable to get the plant up and running again. I offer to help and he doesn't believe I can do it. Wanting to prove him wrong, I made it out to the shortcut I unlocked earlier in the video. I climbed up the side and jumped to a nearby pole. However, for some reason I just slip and fall back into the water. I tried again. I swear to God, is this thing covered in anal lube? I was finally able to make it inside, where I came face to face with a walking balloon of lard with an explosive temper. My job was to reach the turbines to figure out how to make them move again, but first I needed to punch my way through the zombies in my way. When I reached the hatch leading to the turbines, I found the way completely submerged underwater. I dove right in, finding the cause of the water, and having to turn a couple of valves in order to shut off the flow. With the water turned off, I left to turn on the pumps to drain the area, but of course, there's no fucking power. I was forced to go restart a nearby generator and pull a power cable through a wall to plug it into the pump. I activated it and finally drained the water from the turbine area. However, it caused a lot of noise and attracted a shit ton of virals. The sheer amount of zombies that attacked me brought out the beast, and I proceeded to rip them to shreds. I even tanked a point-blank explosion.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
While I was still in beast mode, I went to the turbine room and took out the boomers inside without taking damage. I powered up the turbines, but before I could finish, I needed to turn a couple of valves. I grabbed a wrench from the tool closet and quickly turned the valves before finally getting the turbines to work. I returned to the foreman, who I just now realized that their name was Largo, one letter away from Lardo. Aside from that, he works for the Baron. A shit ton of the Baron's men come out of nowhere. I am immediately knocked over the head and cuffed as I am forced out into the main area. While they were doing all of this shit, I am getting increasingly angrier. The beast came out almost immediately, and I went absolutely savage on these poor fuckers, making sure to take out the rifle soldiers before the beast mode wore off. The rest of them got to feel my knuckles crack their skulls open. I dealt with the last of them and restarted the plant's power once again. I called the situation into the town hall, telling them to bring their own people to keep the plant running. When I tried to leave, I was forced to fight through a lot of soldiers that got in my way. I even juggled 2 guys at one point. When I finally reached the outside world, I tried to rush the nearest rifle guy and take him out first. I always focus the ranged enemies first. They're the most annoying. When the beast mode came out, one soldier tried to put his hands up and surrender.
Don't be rash.
I finished off the rest of the soldiers and began my way back to the town hall. That is until I got distracted by another side quest to restart a power substation. The problem being, it was fucking surrounded. Good thing one of them is good at bowling. I dealt with the big boy and one of the coolest finishers in the game, which made me wonder if this counted as me using a weapon. I didn't have a weapon in my hands, he just ripped that shit out of the goddamn zombie. I restarted the power, returned to the town hall, and told the leaders that we needed to fight back against the Baron. They're hesitant at first, but I'm able to slowly bring them over. However, Sheriff is a bit unsure of this plan. Aside from that, I went around the town hall, speaking with different quest givers in order to get more XP. While I'm out on the town, I stopped by the church from earlier for another side quest, where it is once again overrun with infected. I dealt with the virals the same way as last time before dealing with the ram zombie. I checked on the town hall's people and found them strung up against the nearby wall. This group really doesn't like us for some reason. While on my way to the next mission, I powered up another relay station, fought through one of the Baron's patrols in order to grab some Kevlar for a side quest, before making it to the pump station to check the water pressure. I fought through the zombies on the inside, checked the pressure, but there seemed to be nothing wrong with it. Right next to that quest was the mission area for a main story quest, which brought me to a strange research site that was crawling with infected. I didn't really feel like wasting my time on the small horde and instead kited them away from the important stuff before sprinting back over to interact with it to progress the quest. I used the ram zombie to attack their friends before I'm able to get the shipping container's door unlocked and kick a sleeping zombie in the face. I found some weird canister on the ground which seemed to have come from the local E&F chemical plant. I was able to get out of the container unharmed, only to get my ass handed to me by a bunch of random assholes on the side of the road. I made my way towards the E&F building, but I stopped by a nearby safe house that was shown in the gameplay trailer, which made me not trust this shit for 1 second. I blinded them so I could slide into a nearby room to grab a couple of fuses, before proceeding to let the beast out on the remaining zombies in the basement. I powered up the safe house, waiting until morning to go outside in the pouring rain. Getting soaked down to my undies is not very pleasant, and I took it out on some nearby soldiers, scaring one of them enough that he tries to run away from me. He didn't make it very far. I made it to the chemical plant, and I nearly hit a witch with an axe that I had scavenged for the money. I was able to quickly turn away and hit the wall instead of the zombie. I made sure to put that thing away and deal with it the old-fashioned way. I continued through the area, climbing up on the old silos and getting in an awkward situation with a viral. He wasn't the only one. The farther I got, the more I recognized the gameplay trailer. So much so that I followed their path for a bit. But I did do something pretty stupid, which somehow ended up working, which is always the best kind. I became a ghost of these soldiers for a second until they fucking see me in a damn cutscene. However, I wasn't the only one busting out my beast in this building. Nonetheless, they all decided that I was the bigger threat. They were right, I'm just saying that it's kind of annoying. I made my way through the soldiers, focusing on the rifles as usual, before using the beast on the rest. I found a scientist, who must not have been very smart, as he pulled a gun on a 6'3" half zombie, half human hybrid covered in blood and guts. He tells me the canisters are filled with gas that attracts the zombies, and I swiftly put him to sleep. I found my way down to the basement level to grab some of this gas, silently taking out the zombies nearby. I grabbed the canister, hauling that thing through a strange monster-sized hole in the wall. Normally you put it in the nearby truck and drive it to the location. However, I found that carrying it on foot was faster than the car, funny enough. I installed the gas into the strange machine, but right when I was about to turn it on, soldiers began to shoot at me. I used the destroyed cars as cover in order to get close to them, before unleashing a barrage of hits. I slinked back to cover so I wouldn't get killed. I took out the last of them, making sure they felt my frustration as I wailed on their asses. I finally turned on the gas, releasing thick cherry-flavored vape smoke into the air. It was so potent that I immediately summoned a hulking behemoth from the nearby woods. The guy may have been massive, but unfortunately for him, I was right at dick punching height. Don't even get me started on how I beasted all over that zombie's cake. I ripped through that zombie's ass cheeks, pulled them apart, and went
tongue first right into the chocolate starfish.
I kept going with the absolute beatdown. This guy may have been fucking massive, but he was slow as shit, making it easy to dodge its attacks most of the time. That is unless it throws zombies at me like an undead Hulk and Wolverine fastball special. Finally, with one last bout of explosive anger, I tore through its remaining health and was able to activate the kill animation. I climbed on top of that thing and proceeded to rip its goddamn head off. I got the blood sample, took my hit, and made my way back to town. After that chimera, I am finally able to control when I go beast mode. To this point in the game, I had been playing the game normally on a different save file. However, from this point forward, I went in completely blind, not knowing what the hell I was getting myself into. I returned to the town hall where I overheard an interesting phone call coming from the sheriff's Sheriff's office. I soon got distracted by selling all of my weaponry at the shop. The shop owner sends me off on another quest to a nearby military convoy. It was where his men were supposed to pick up a shipment of supplies for his shop. However, when I investigated the dead bodies, I was surprised to find a goddamn bomb blowing up in my face. I immediately fell unconscious and somehow survived until nighttime. I don't know how zombies from all over town didn't come running as soon as the bomb went off. I ran my scared ass back to the town hall and took a quick power nap to heal from being blown up. The next morning, I beat up a big boy outside a relay station before I restarted the power. I stopped by a random house to beat up a screaming demon and grab an ox cord from the floor for a side quest. I was finally able to make it back to Olivia to deliver her blood sample. I was able to continue the side quest that blew me up a paragraph ago, and I made a beeline straight towards the mission area. When I got there, I got bitch slapped by a damn witch. I quickly got revenge on that little asshole. I climbed into the nearby house, only to find complete carnage. I found one of the enemies, but he was injured and bleeding out. Crank, put the gun down! The game gave me an option of putting the guy out of his misery or just leaving him to suffer. I thought Crane would use the gun to do the job, and I decided to stay true to this challenge. He told me that they were stationed at the library, but before I went there, I stopped by the town hall along the way to upgrade my bandages and flashlight.
We hit him with that American Eagle speech, that...
I made my way to the library and proceeded to get locked in. I found a random woman in a wheelchair just as a bunch of her friends tried to gang up on me. Despite the enclosed space, I'm able to finish off the attackers fairly quickly. That is until a woman sets off the library's alarm system, causing a shit ton of virals to flood into the area. I was forced to run around the room, destroying the alarm bells before I could focus on the zombies. I dealt with the virals chasing me before finding the woman in the wheelchair dead, putting an end to the group and stopping the attacks on the town hall's people. After finishing off that quest, I went off to do another one nearby, which involved breaking into the water treatment building and finding the chief engineer's office. I had to unlock a safe to get the building's keys and fight through an absolute shit ton of zombies between me and the engineer's office. I mean, they were just non-stop. I covered those stairs with so many bodies that they came up to my thighs. I finally reached the office, learning of the location of a sewer maintenance point. I fought through the zombies surrounding the building before making my way inside. There wasn't anything wrong with the pressure, and I thought that it was another dead end. That is until I began to hear some distant banging coming from below. You know what's below me? The sewers! They're back. They're back from the first game. I can't fucking escape! I made my way through the shit-covered tunnels, passing a random volatile along the way, which nearly made me shit myself. I reached an open area swarming with zombies, and I am forced to go apeshit on them to take them out. After ripping the zombies to shreds, I finally found the source of the banging. The actual chief engineer and his family were staying down there for safety. However, they got stuck and turned the water off to get someone's attention. I made sure he restarted the water, however, before clearing out the way through the sewers. The last one tried to jump out at me from nowhere, and I beat its ass for trying. I reached the outside world once again, meeting up with some of the town hall's workers, who were there to escort the engineer's family back to the hall. Moving on from that quest, I decided to focus on the main quest line a little. Enjoying the parkour along the way, I went off to meet up with Sheriff somewhere in the nearby mountains. She said she saw the Baron going into a rundown mine with a lot of his men. She doesn't know the reason for why he was going in there, and I don't really give a shit. I found Sheriff on the ridge overlooking the mine. She said she would cover me until I got inside. I made my way around the side of the outpost, picking off the soldiers as quietly as I could, nearly biffing a jump at one point, but I was able to save myself. Not that it mattered, as a minute later I got spotted choking out one of their friends, forcing me to disregard stealth and start beating ass. They weren't that tough, there was just a shit ton of them. I finished them off and was finally able to get inside, putting me against a shit ton of soldiers with high-powered rifles, making sure to grab them for money, and making doubly sure that I do not accidentally shoot it at them. Aside from the soldiers, I was also forced to fight off some zombies along the way, even a goddamn demolisher, which is exceptionally hard to dodge in these tight confines of the mine. I was, however, able to push a barrier out of the way and escape to the area without actually having to fight the big bastard. I made it to an area that was crawling with soldiers, and a lot of them were wielding guns. I tried to go at them with stealth, but I've never been known for being very stealthy. Due to them having guns, I didn't last very long soon afterwards. Another try saw me getting stuck on a ledge like an idiot and getting filled with holes. At one point, I took out some of them and retreated to the door to force them to tunnel through the small entrance. That is also where I came face to face with a new heavy soldier with a fucking shotgun. I activated beast mode to finish off the rest of the soldiers and investigated the Baron's new experiment. That is until Sheriff comes out of nowhere with a bunch of the Baron's soldiers. She had betrayed me to the Baron and now I was surrounded. I was electrocuted and beaten to the ground as the grand asshole himself appeared. He begins the villain monologue again. I used the distraction to overpower a soldier, throwing him into the containment box, unlocking it. What came out was the beast I couldn't kill from earlier, who proceeds to use the guy as a human shield before scurrying away like a damned ripped cockroach. Pissed off at losing his pet, the Baron pulls a galaxy-brained move and brings the mine down on top of us, forcing me to jump into the containment box to not get crushed. I was able to climb out and booked it through the collapsing caves. As I moved, I stumbled across a damn volatile nest. I immediately turned off my flashlight and quickly snuck my way through. I nearly got spotted along the way, using my survivor sense to navigate the pitch blackness like I was goddamn Daredevil. I was able to escape the mine and immediately made Sheriff shit her pants over the radio. I made a beeline straight for the town hall to beat Sheriff's ass, only to find that she had run away like a little bitch. And to be fair, I do not blame her. Crane would rip her head off, quite literally. I made the second in command the one in charge, and he tells me of a secretive group of infected humans who were living in the woods. They had somehow not turned and now live with the virus, which somehow gives them superpowers.
Crane, can you hear me? What the hell?
After Crane gives the most authentic reaction to suddenly hearing a man's voice in your head, the voice, whose name is Sven, asks for my help as he is pinned down by a bunch of the Baron's men. I made it to the location and immediately got spotted while in the tall grass. I hate these fucking eagle-eyed motherfuckers. I handled the goons, rescued Sven, and was forced to go out and look for his friends. I made it to their last known location. I searched for them, but I was only able to find a map in the attic. I head over there, only to find a couple of soldiers. I dealt with one, but then I got distracted by the second one's legs being stuck in the damn floor. That gave him enough time to turn around and see me, although I think he might have regretted that after what I did to him. I grabbed their radio, trolling the shit out of their friends.
I was taking a dump.
That allows me to learn that they're holding Sven's friends at a pig farm. I made it there and dealt with the lookout before heading inside. I found the duo just as they're being transferred. I was about to go after them when I was once again discovered. Crane took him out and shot him. Fuck! I'm not counting that as a fail. He did that in the cutscene. I used the beast mode to clear out the barn without worry. With that finished, I hopped into a nearby truck and went after the friends. You know what? I think I'm just gonna run. That's a big problem for this challenge. You can hit zombies far too easily in cars, and I don't want that. I reached the convoy, which had somehow been destroyed with only the two friends still being alive. However, they were close to death, and I was forced to drive. Now, as I said earlier, the cars make it hard to avoid zombies. The routes they choose do not help either, as they want you to plow through zombies because it's fun. Not so fun during a challenge. I tried my best to swerve out of the way of any zombies. I'm sure you can do this without hitting a zombie, but sometimes they just come out of the fucking bushes. So if you think I failed the challenge here, let me know in the comments. But if you think about it though, is a car really a weapon? I reached Sven's hideout and was soon surrounded by a bunch of weirdos who could probably read my mind. I don't like that.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
I entered their secret cave hideout, where the leader doesn't quite trust me yet. I met with Sven and the radio expert, Selby, who wants me to help in tapping into the Baron's radio frequency. I agree to help and Sven gives me a new toy to play with, the grappling hook. I immediately upgraded to as high as I could before swinging my way to the objective. I had to climb up the nearby radio relay tower, bringing back some old memories from the first game. I got to the top and was grabbed by a random zombie. How'd you even get up here? I installed the transmitter. However, for it to work properly, I had to collect a radio from one of the Baron's goons. It wasn't hard to do. I just picked off a straggler, grabbed the radio, and returned it to Selby to fine-tune the signal. Another problem being that she only had one of the transmitters, so I had to swing off to a nearby military convoy to grab more. Of course, the trucks are guarded by zombies and a damn demolisher. I used the big guy to take out the normal zombies first before I focused my energy on him, beating him senseless until he finally went down. I unlocked the armored truck to get the transmitter and went off to set it up on another relay. However, this one had a barbed wire fence around it, forcing me to climb up a different tower and zipline over to the one I needed to reach. I reached the relay, set up the transmitter, and went off to set up the third one at the top of the Belfry Tower in town. One of the tallest buildings in the game, by the way. The way up was a parkour runner's wet dream, bringing out all the skills I had learned up until then to reach the top. Surprise, bitch! I was even forced to climb on the outside of the building, leaving nothing to chance. I was either making it to the top or I became a grease stain on the floor. I was finally able to reach the balcony of the tower, which was a short climb to the actual top. I was able to hook up the transmitter, and Selby tells me that she finally has a clear signal of the Baron. However, her excitement soon turned to horror as she overhears a plan to blow up the town hall. Happening right now, by the way. I jumped into action, ziplining down to the ground and radioed the guy in charge of the hall to tell them to evacuate. The Baron's men were setting up explosives underneath the town hall and old cellars. I was on a time limit, which made me even more stressed than I already was. I reached the first explosive, thinking naively that I could disarm the bombs before the soldiers could attack. I was wrong and paid for it with my life. I tried again, barreling through the soldiers that got in my way, trying my best to take them out as quickly as possible before I'm able to disarm one of the bombs. The second bomb I was able to rush without getting interrupted. The third bomb, however, eluded me for a little bit, trying to find it without being killed by the other soldiers. I was finally able to find it with 50 seconds to spare. I was thankfully able able to let out my beast to finish off the rest of them before I'm able to disarm the bomb with barely any time left. I radioed the hall's leader to tell them I succeeded and went straight to bed, wanting to forget that I nearly got blown to Kingdom Come. After my good night's sleep, I went out to meet Olivia at the next Chimera location. I went out to the bootleg Stonehenge and had to find a random gas canister in the bushes. When I activated the gas machine, I was horrified at what I had to fight. It was a monstrous version of the ranged zombies that like to spit at me, meaning that it liked to poison me from a distance. However, unlike the normal ones, this one is able to jump away from me like a little bitch, forcing me to run after it just to do damage, putting me in the perfect position for it to cover me in its poison. There is a certain rock that you are able to attack it without it being able to attack you, but it doesn't stay there very long. You also have to be careful of the virals that spawn, because I went from full health to dead in about 3 fucking seconds. The next time through, I tried my best to do damage wherever I could, but also stay away from its poison, waiting for it to land after a jump in order to run up to it and give it a nice fisting. That is until it got down to a quarter of its health, and I unleashed the beast on its lanky ass, breaking its leg and beating my fist into its face. It was so terrified that the zombie tried to shield its face with its own arm, but I didn't stop until its head resembled a smashed watermelon. I did the thing, took my steroids, and brought the sample over to Olivia, who takes it back to the monastery. Moving on with the main quest line, I swung across a river in order to reach another telepath on a scouting mission. He is watching an old school that the Baron's scientists were using for experiments. That is until bandits showed up and took over. Thinking there would be important data in there, I made my way inside. Not wanting to go through the front door, I slipped in through the side, making my way through a dark zone that was filled with sleeping zombies. A screamer nearly spotted me, but I was able to stay out of its line of sight and choke it out before it could do anything. That is until a second one came out of nowhere and let out a blood-curdling scream, waking up every nearby zombie. I dealt with the zombies that came after me, found a binary code to open a loot safe. I'll save you the trouble. It's 5, 40, 90. You're welcome. The rest of my time was focused on punching my way through the zombies that got in my way, using my UV flashlight in order to stun the group to allow me to go hog wild on their faces. Further in, I snuck my way through the basement locker rooms. That is until one woke up and I blasted in the face with UV. Not wanting to deal with all of them, I slipped through the nearby barrier to safety. I reached the research lab, but instead of information, I found one of the Baron's top scientists instead. He promises to give me the key to the main archive if I got him out of there safely. I made it down to the basement, where I had to kill every zombie in order to make it safe enough for the scientist, forcing me to fight a ram in a confined space. It was a tedious fight to say the least, but I was able to take him out. I made it outside and called for the scout in order to come and pick up the scientist, whose name is Camillo, by the way. He gives me the archive key, and I returned inside to grab the information. I tried to be stealthy, but like always, I am spotted and I used the beast mode to take out each and every one of the bandits. I was able to grab the information just as the Baron's soldiers and more bandits come out of nowhere and begin a firefight with me in the middle. I booked it out of there, leaving them to settle their own differences and return to the cave to meet up with their leader Lydia, who was one of the strongest telepaths apparently. I asked if Camillo made it back safely and she was confused, saying that no one had arrived. I went out in search of Camillo and the scout, but all I found was a wrecked car with the scout dead behind the wheel. I found a set of footprints leading away from the crash, meaning that Camillo was still alive. I followed them into a nearby building, where a zombie tried to grab me and only succeeded in falling on the face. I found Camillo in the kitchen and waited until Lydia and her people arrived to retrieve him. With that done, I went out to do another chimera. The hell is that? Ow! I didn't know they had sniper rifles in this game! I met up with Olivia outside an old abandoned factory building before making my way inside. This chimera was another banshee type of zombie. Holy shit, it's a ninja! Aside from disappearing in a puff of cigarette smoke, this little asshole has the ability of spawning non-stop virals, which I guess is why it's named the Matriarch. The bitch also likes to run and hide from me, forcing me to bring out my inner daredevil and listen for its screaming to find out where it was. The chimera wasn't that strong on its own. The main thing you need to watch out for is the constant stream of virals that are hunting you down. Aside from that, I slowly whittled down its health until I am finally able to grab that slippery little shit by the ankle and recreate the Hulk and Loki scene from the Avengers movie. I took their blood, took my dose of steroids, and returned to Olivia to drop off the second blood sample. She opens up on the creation of the red gas that attracts zombies, and tells me that her father was the one that developed it. With that information in hand, I return to the cave where Lydia and Camilo are trying to make a drug that would be able to turn Lydia into the goddamn Professor X, being able to control the minds of the infected. However, in order to develop this drug, they needed to get blood samples from a damn volatile nest.
You serious?
They didn't just need one either. They needed 3 of the damn things.
Fuck!
I was extremely hesitant, but I ultimately agreed to the mission. Before I left, I picked up another side quest that will be important later in the video. I parkoured my way over to the hive, seriously rethinking this stupid idea. I reached the entrance to the cave, and immediately started blasting off my survivor sense in order to sense the volatiles. Thankfully, there weren't any just yet, and I was able to go through the cave system without much hassle. I reached an area where the Baron's men had gotten ripped to shreds, as well as a giant hole in the ground. With all of my courage, I jumped in, and proceeded to hit the ground like an idiot. Trying again, I grabbed the rope and rappelled down safely into the pitch blackness. I examined the body of the scientist until a strange noise caught my attention. However, there was nothing in sight, only for me to look in horror as a volatile appeared out of nowhere and smashed a glowing UV light like it was nothing. Whose bright idea was it to turn a damn volatile invisible? I waited for the thing to attack, which made it decloak, and I got off a couple of punches before it disappeared again. I had an idea and shined my UV flashlight at the monster, making it glow a neon green when exposed to light. Although even with this weakness, I am only able to get a couple of hits off on the volatile before it tries to fight back. That is until I found a funny little exploit. If you hug its ass and spin, the volatile is unable to turn around quick enough to attack you, giving you the perfect opportunity to unleash a barrage of attacks. When I ran out of stamina, I jumped away to safety. I tried to do it again, but instead I used the beast mode to fight the damn thing mano a mano. That is until it ran out and I ran away like a little bitch. I was finally able to get into the damage spin once again, melting its remaining health until I got to the finisher, making sure the volatile knew what the underside of my boot looked and tasted like. I got a badass shot of Crane after he harvested the Chimera's blood. His single red eye shining in the dark could make an infected shit themselves. I injected the Chimera's thick, warm juice into my arm, leaving only one more Chimera for me to find and kill. I continued further into the cave until I finally reached the volatile hive entrance. I needed to sneak up to the volatiles that were fused to the ground and jab them in the ass to collect the sample. Why must I take the sample from their ass meat, you may be asking? I don't know, that's just where Crane stuck the damn thing. He's an ass man, and I respect that. My ass, however, was in a constant vice grip as I snuck past the roaming volatiles. I got the second ass meat as well as the third soon afterwards. I was hoping that I could just slip out of there without having to worry about anything.
I can smell you.
I ran as fast as I could, jumping over obstacles, climbing over ledges, and blasting the volatiles in the face with my UV flashlight, stunning them long enough for me to get to the end and collapse the way behind me, keeping me safe.
I'm so fucking scared right now, you shut up!
After shitting my pants once again, I returned to the cave and gave Lydia the damn blood samples. Right afterwards, I met up with Olivia to find the final chimera. Before I head out, she tells me it was her father who was the one who initially caught Crane. A little pissed off at that knowledge, I went out in search of something to tear apart. I knew I had to go underneath, but it took me a couple of minutes to actually find a hole in the ground. When I entered the boss arena, I came face to face with the largest zombie I have ever seen. This Colossus shares a lot of the abilities with the behemoth from earlier in the game. However, in this fight, there are a bunch of containers of toxic waste all over the place. These turn the zombie's health green, and at first I thought these gave the monster some sort of toxic effect to its attacks. Instead, I later learned that it is actually used to deal more damage to the Colossus. There really isn't much to talk about with this fight. It's just like an earlier Chimera, except it's just 50% bigger. However, it does put me at the perfect height to punch this thing in the balls, allowing me to bring out my old Space Marine skills. When I got it down to half health, it spawned in some virals, but that's not super different from other bosses in this game. I was actually getting kinda bored of the fight, and when the monster got poisoned again, I unleashed the beast and tore that thing's health to shreds, taking out a fourth of it before having to move away. I was able to finish the fight with a drop kick and perform my finisher on the big bastard. I've got to say the final Chimera fight was kind of a letdown for being the last one. I kinda wish the invisible Volatile was the final boss. Aside from that, I grabbed its blood, took my final shot of zombie heroin, allowing me to unlock my full beast potential. With Chimeras defeated, I met up with Lydia and Camilo outside the old abandoned psychiatric hospital. They say the last thing they need to complete Lydia's abilities is a special drug in the building that is swarming with zombies. Thankfully, Lydia has gotten stronger and can now hide our presence from the zombies around me. How can she do this? I don't fucking know. I don't know what kind of fucked up human experiments had to be done to gain telepathic abilities to this degree, but holy shit, this is weird. Camilo told me that I couldn't get too close to the zombies, otherwise Lydia's hold on them would break. I made it inside and immediately came face to face with a screamer. Lydia's magic seemed to work as it left me alone. I tried my best to keep my distance and enter block B, only to find it needed power to function, which of course is in the fucking basement. I made my way that way and got far too close for comfort with the roaming volatile. I could have reached out and booped it on the nose. I was able to sneak by and crawl through the vents to the basement level. I slipped far too close to a couple of zombies and waited for a Volatile to slide on by before making a beeline for the generator. I got the power working, only for Camilo to tell me that I still needed an employee keycard to enter Block B. I swear to God I'm going to punch Camilo when I get out of this. I climbed the elevator shaft to a higher level and searched for the card.
I'm in danger!
I'm not sure where to go. I'm just glad I was safe as long as I didn't get too close to the zombies. I had another small panic attack when I thought a Volatile was going to walk down a hallway. I was finally able to find out where I was supposed to go, finding a keycard on a dead scientist. I returned to Block B, where I was able to reach the medical storage room. That is until Camilo tells me it requires a bioscan in order for it to open. Camilo is really testing my fucking patience. I had to backtrack all the way to a different hallway, one that is being patrolled by a Volatile. I was able to slip by it, found a dead scientist, and quickly chopped off its hand. I stuffed that man's hand down my pants. Pause. I returned to the storage room and was finally able to unlock the door. When I got in there, I began to search for this drug, just as the alarm bells began to blare. I grabbed the drug just as Lydia's hold over the zombies failed. The zombies came back to life, and I booked it out of there. I thought stupidly that I could escape through the front door. I quickly ruled that out as an option. Trying the second time, I followed the obvious path down the psych ward hallway before busting my way out through the nearby window. The sun had gone down at this point, and this much commotion started a chase. I tried parkouring away like my life depended on it, which it did. I made it to a safe house and was able to sleep through the night. Come the next morning, I made my way over to Camilo and Lydia in town. I gave them the drugs and was about to leave until the town hall comes over the radio, pleading for help. The Baron was launching an all-out attack on the hall. I sprinted over to help the town hall. Along the way, Sheriff radios to apologize and say that she wanted to help. I told her we were going to settle this later. Just as I reached the courtyard, they were trying to set up a gas canister to call in zombies. My first attempt just resulted in me dying like an idiot. Same with the second try. The third, however, saw me taking out the annoying marksman who had been sniping me. That was before I focused on the others with guns. Thanks to fully maxing out my beast tree, I am able to unleash the beast far earlier than before, allowing me to finish off the more dangerous soldiers. With the final soldier down, I was able to disconnect the gas machine. That is until fucking mortar crews began to fire canisters into the courtyard. I raced over to the first mortar crew, where I almost immediately got gunned down. The second time through, I knocked a soldier off the roof before introducing another one to the bottoms of my boots. I dealt with the remaining soldiers, but for some reason, I had a hard time figuring out I needed to actually destroy the mortar. In my defense, I was playing with maybe 3 hours of sleep in me. At some point, I thought a soldier had survived a fall, but it was only a zombie. That is until I figured it out nearly 2 minutes later. Sadly, there were 2 more mortar crews. I focused on the actual mortar this time around before blasting the soldiers off the side of the roof. I reached the third crew and knocked a shotgun soldier off the roof before destroying the mortar. I went to deal with the sniper and proceeded to kick multiple soldiers out the nearby window. The timed shit didn't end there, as I raced back to the courtyard, running around the area cleaning up all the canisters that spewed the red mist. This part of the mission was fairly simple. Good thing this was the end of the attack. Me and the big bastard went blow for blow, my upgraded abilities making me hit like a small truck until I'm able to put it face down, ass up. Are we done now? Whoever thought of his boss fight, I hate you. The double chimera clusterfuck was full of commotion and action. While I was fighting, Lydia comes into my brain and tells me if I can weaken the chimera enough, she can take control over it. While I tried to lower their health, I was surprised that Lydia was able to take over the chimera with more health. I'm not complaining, however, as she made her chimera kill the second one. Lydia sent the chimera away, finally marking the end of the invasion. I very nearly ripped Sheriff's throat out, until Lydia came by and helped calm the tension that was building. They say it was time to fight back against the Baron, and the best way to do that is to make him come to us. With that, we devised a plan to finally catch the beast that has been terrorizing the whole Castor Woods. Before I started the home stretch of the game, I wanted to upgrade my bandages to the highest they could go. However, I would need expert manuals to upgrade them. That brings me back to a quest I grabbed in the cave. It's to find 2 missing scouts, and the reward is 2 expert manuals. I made my way over to their last known location, but when I got there, the 2 were nowhere to be found. However, I was able to find out where they were going. I swung over to find out it was an outpost for the Baron's men. When I got close, one of the scouts screams out in pain telepathically. I made short work of the soldiers, tried to sneak into the building, and was quickly spotted by one of the soldiers. I dealt with him and stopped the interrogation that was happening in the next next room over. I tried to help Ron, but he was bleeding too much and he tells me to go find his partner Anna just before he passed. I grabbed the guard's radio, learning that the soldiers carrying Anna ran out of gas at the nearby art gallery. Along the way, I stopped by a dark zone to grab an electric motor for a different side quest. Also, before I went after Anna, I ran back to the town hall in order for me to skip the coming night. Not like they'll be moving at night anyway. I made it to the art gallery the next day and nearly got shot by the sniper on the balcony. I climbed up the side of the building and jumped down to the balcony, but the sniper wasn't there anymore. I was able to sneak in behind the soldiers until I'm able to blast the sniper off the balcony. I dealt with the remaining guards and found Anna in the next room. I talked her down and told her I was there to protect her. I learned that the reason they went for the Baron's help was because Anna was pregnant. She asked me to leave and I am able to finish the quest, acquiring the expert manuals for my bandages. However, before I went to upgrade them, I stopped by another quest that will give me a lot of crafting materials. This quest is the reason I was grabbing an electric motor, a high-grade aux cord, and Kevlar earlier in the video. This guy thought he could make a noise that repelled the infected. However, the dumbass's experiment malfunctioned, sending out loud-ass music, attracting every zombie nearby. Waves of infected came out of the woodworks, forcing me to fight through them. However, that's not all of it, as I also had to protect the guy's stupid experiment. When I finished the first wave of zombies, this idiot accidentally makes the music louder, bringing even more zombies out. There were so many zombies that I had to pull out the beast mode in order not to die, allowing me to wipe out the remaining zombies, narrowly protecting the device before it could be destroyed. After all of that bullshit, I followed the guy's instructions and gave the speaker even more juice, only for it to blow up right in my face and attract even more of the undead. It wasn't only just normal zombies, but also a demolisher. I thankfully didn't have to protect the stupid device anymore and focused on destroying the wave of zombies instead, releasing beast mode and clearing out the small courtyard in seconds. Being a fully realized beast was so much fun. I spoke with the idiot to complete the quest and gathered up all the loot that came from the zombies, giving me quite a few resources for the upcoming battle. I finally upgraded my bandages to gold just before I misjudged a jump and nearly killed myself. Thankfully I had enough Gatorade to drown my pain and suffering.
This right here is my favorite thing ever in the history of forever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.
In order to lure the beast out, I went back to the ENF plant to grab more of the red gas canisters. The only problem being the damn Volatile roaming the basement area where the gas was located. It wasn't super hard to sneak my way past it, it was just awkward due to me having to grab 2 canisters. It took a little time, but I was able to move both canisters out of the basement and chuck them out through the hole in the wall. Lydia and the others appeared to grab one of the canisters. Lydia gives me a beaten stick to knock the beast out with. However, I think my fist can do the exact same thing. With all that done, they send me off on a drive through the Castor Woods in order to lure out the beast. Sorry about that! I was forced to follow a set path through the woods, as well as being timed, making it hard to avoid zombies at times. Especially one time on the bridge. I tried to thread the needle, but I clipped something, allowing zombies to get in my way, making it impossible to move on without hitting them. Annoyed at that mistake, I continued on with the mission. That is until I reached the end of the route, and suddenly it's nighttime without so much as a warning. While I was driving, I was attacked by the beast. I drove the car into a nearby mine entrance, throwing the beast off, but also causing the mine entrance to collapse, leaving me and the beast in a cave with nowhere to run. Lydia tells me not to fight the damn thing so she can take control over him, forcing me to run for my life. While I did, I realized I only have 3 bandages. This fight is so scripted that they had to nerf me. When Lydia finally allows me to hurt him, I got a couple of hits in before he took me out. The thing hits like a fucking truck, taking nearly 1/3 of my health in one hit. There was a time that I thought it had the same loophole as the invisible Volatile, but it barely helped. At maybe 1/3 of its health, Lydia tries to control him again, only for it to not work once again. When I was allowed to fight, I got a bit too cocky with my beast mode and ended up dead once again. Fuck! The 3rd time through, I made it back to where I was, making sure I was much more careful than last time, until I am finally able to get it low enough, and I'm able to knock the shit out of him. knocking him out and allowing Lydia to put him under control. Camilo asks for my blood to stabilize the beast, and I allow him to take some. Supposedly, it's supposed to calm him down and return him to normal. They packed the beast up in one of their trucks and went back to the cave. The final mission is here, and I am underleveled by 1 level. Not wanting to go in on a disadvantage, I went out to make some quick XP, opening the safe house and killing zombies that were nearby until I'm finally able to level up to level 13. If I hadn't done as many side quests as I did, I would definitely not be high enough level for this quest. With my new level acquired, I returned to the cave and finally started the final mission. I met Lydia and Sheriff just as they were about to wake up the beast. The big guy jolts awake in panic, however we are soon able to calm him down. We finally learned the beast's name was Aiden. Yeah, the protagonist from the second game. I don't know how he got here or why he's built like prime Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I'm not complaining. Thankfully, he fills us in on the former. He and Spike were the ones in the beginning who were trying to rescue me. They got captured and the Baron wanted to experiment on Aiden when all hell broke loose. Just as he finished, the Baron radios us to make a deal for Aiden and Crane. We planned on storming the Baron's compound while handing the two over. However, before that, we needed to rest. Jesus, put a shirt on! Stop making me question shit! When I woke up, Aiden was nowhere to be found, and apparently went off to confront the Baron alone. The Baron calls, saying that he has already captured Aiden. Me and everyone else devise a plan of attack, before heading out in the pitch blackness to infiltrate the Baron's castle. I made it to a secret tunnel underneath the base, which requires me to plant explosives on certain blocked passages. While I went, I thought for sure I would stumble upon a damn volatile nest at some point, but I am glad to say that I was in the clear.
Remember, the key to being a good thief is nice and stealthy. Like a mouse.
How does the Baron's men not hear this shit? I reached the castle proper, and was tasked with taking out the sharpshooters to keep my team from getting shot. I also needed to open the main gate to allow them to enter. I dealt with a couple of the snipers, but it took so long for me to finish that the sun came up. I tried to hide in the bushes, but just decided to finish off the rest of the snipers. I was able to open the gate, allowing my team to come in and letting all hell let loose. That is until our members were starting to die. Even Sven. Lydia seemed to have remembered that she has damn superpowers now, and brings in an army of virals to do her bidding. With them distracting the guards, I am able to take out any of the stragglers that are still able to shoot. That is until all the zombies get killed, and I am left alone to deal with the soldiers. They weren't that hard to finish off, there was just a lot of them. As I finish them off, more reinforcements come out of nowhere, and one even throws a gas grenade to attract two chimeras into the fight. Thankfully, I didn't have to fight them. Sheriff and the others gave me covering fire, allowing me to make it inside the castle. The Baron is still trying to run, and I am forced to fight through his heavily armed guards. There were a couple of times where I was getting low on health, but I was able to come out on top. I got into the elevator and followed the Baron down to a long as shit hallway that leads to a goddamn train tunnel. How much money does this guy have? I beat a soldier's ass so hard I needed to take a breather and down multiple Gatorades in one go. I didn't want to waste my bandages just in case I needed them for later. Thank God I did that, by the way. The later sections are brutal at times. I took out the remaining soldier, hopped into a conveniently placed truck, and blasted my way down the train tunnel. I'm not sure if you could do this part without the truck, but I tried my best to avoid anything that got in my way, soldiers and zombies alike. I even tried to turn the truck mid-air to avoid killing the infected. I may have bumped into one, but I don't think it died. Thankfully, the train tunnel has these sloping walls that allow for the truck to drive in a way that I can more easily dodge zombies with, even if they start falling from the damn ceiling. I got to the end of the tunnel, and somehow one lone zombie followed me all the way there. I continued on through the facility until I reached a wide open room with a shit ton of ammo and guns. Something doesn't feel right. Oh shit. I tried to leave, only for the Baron to come over the intercom and release one of the contained chimeras. The fight with the chimera wasn't any harder than in earlier encounters. The thing I want to know is why the Baron chose this specific chimera to replicate, and why are there so fucking many? I finished off the chimera without that much hassle. However, the Baron only releases another one for me to fight. But where's the fun in one? And why stop at two? What the hell is going on? Thankfully, Lydia is able to come in clutch, taking over the weaker chimera, giving me some breathing room. I was able to use beast mode to bring another chimera under Lydia's control, allowing them to gang up on the third. They brought it down, and now Lydia has 3 giant chimera pets to play with. They got a little too excited in trying to help me out, absolutely tearing through the soldiers who tried to enter the boss room. The only problem was that they kinda got in the way and I couldn't get past. I had to wait for them to finish off the soldiers before I'm able to continue. I made my way through the lab that I've been tortured in for so many years, ripping my way through the soldiers that got in my way until I'm finally able to find Aiden. He was strapped to a bed and sedated. I immediately tried to break him out until someone very familiar comes out of nowhere and locks us in the cell. I knew from the very beginning that we couldn't trust Olivia. She was far too hot. She starts pumping knockout gas into the cell, bringing me to my knees. She took a sample of my blood before I ultimately blacked out. When I came to, I was strapped down to a chair, which is weird because I'm not really into being tied up.
Liar!
I was at a dinner table with all of my friends, including Spike, just as I got my bearings. The grayed asshole entered the room with Olivia in tow. She looked distraught and terrified as the Baron brought out the main course on a silver platter. Oh, is it weird that I was expecting to see Sven's head under there? Part of me wishes it was a head, as the Baron slashes Spike's throat open a second later, killing a friend of both Crane and Aiden. He was about to do it to Camilo, but Lydia is able to interrupt his movements for a second. That is until the Baron introduces her nose to the hardwood table. With that finished, he stabs stabbed Camilo in the neck and was about to kill Lydia when Olivia stops him. He gave her a choice between him and Crane. To my surprise, Olivia pulled the gun on the Baron instead. Sadly, there were no bullets inside, and a brief scuffle breaks out between the two. Lydia is able to help Olivia, allowing her to jam the knife into the Baron's eye. While he's stumbling around in pain, she begins to undo our restraints. His troops begin to shoot at us, but Aiden is easily able to take them out. Crane for some reason grabbed a gun and followed Aiden into the nearby elevator. We emerged onto the roof of the facility and started the final showdown between Crane and the Baron. Me and Aiden confronted the Baron, who proceeds to fire a grenade launcher at us, sending us flying.
My back! Oh, my back!
He donned a gas mask and with the help of his men, brings the fight to us. I dealt with the soldiers easily enough, but when I tried to punch the Baron, he literally sets off a fart bomb right at his feet, forcing me to back away or get poisoned. I gotta say, he's pretty good with that grenade launcher. After I got the Baron's health a little low, he begins to send mini Aidens at us. They're basically the Beast with the same moveset, but are far weaker than Aiden. As the fight progressed, Lydia comes in clutch once again and takes control of some of the mini beasts to fight on our side. During the fight, I don't know why I was sitting on the beast mode for so long. I think the constant action as well as it being 2 in the morning when I played caused my brain to not think straight. Either that or I'm a dumbass. When his health got down to a third, Aiden and Lydia are forced out of the fight, leaving just me and the Baron to settle a score. I continued fighting until I thought he was low enough and I finally released the beast on his creepy little bastard. I didn't quite finish it off, but one more burst of rage sealed the deal. Thinking that I had won, I was annoyed when he brought out some stupid fucking serum, which was probably filled with mutated zombie piss or something. He injected himself and began to change, his body growing larger, his skin becoming a grotesque mask of rearranged skin and muscle until he finished his transformation.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.
The fight began with him rushing me, and I immediately paused the game to craft as many bandages as I could. The Baron's new form gives him enhanced strength, speed, and deadliness, being able to do quite a bit of damage to me. He is also aggressive as shit, giving me barely any time to heal. His basic attacks are easy enough to dodge, but he also likes to cause shockwaves at times. He also likes to spit at me, weirdo. He likes to launch a quick lunge attack that feels like it's a pube hair away from hitting me every time. Slowly but surely, over the course of the fight, I am able to find out when I am able to attack, and when I need to dodge out of the way, using my beast mode more to stun the big bastard out of one of his attacks. I found that when he uses his ground pound, there is a small window of time where I'm able to deal damage. Also, I got a funny shot with my beast mode. As I whittled his health down, I was finally able to get him down to his second health bar, which apparently activates his super mega ground pound, one that is able to take out over half of my health in one fucking shot, putting me on my ass in the process. He tried the same shit on me while I was in my beast mode, but I was able to launch myself into the air along with him. One time when I had ran out of stamina, I was running for cover and harnessed my ultra instincts to jump over his ground pound. I was doing fairly okay so far, staying calm for the most part. However, one bad hit due to me accidentally trying to dodge without stamina damn near cost me the fight. I feel like something about the near-death experience made me begin to fight a bit sloppier. My nerves were fried from the lack of sleep. My thumb was starting to have a stabbing pain shoot through it for holding the stick down for so long, and I was running dangerously low on heals. That is until I used my last bandage, forcing me to pull out my emergency supply of military medkits. I was collecting them throughout the entire game, and now they were my only lifeline left. I was still getting battered around like a plaything. However, I am running on 2 hours of sleep, unbridled rage, and an Oreo. I am ready to fight God or become him! Finally! I'm finally done! With the Baron dead, Castor Woods can finally have a modicum of peace. As Crane climbs back up to the landing pad, he is greeted by a far too familiar voice, one that he hasn't heard in 13 years, and one I had told to go fuck a sandpaper dildo. With the GRE lady still alive, this could lead into Dying Light 3. However, until that time comes, I am content with finally finishing this long as hell challenge. There were a couple of missteps along the way, but on the whole, I believe I completed this challenge. I'm going to say that yes, you can beat Dying Like the Beast without weapons. Thank you to everyone who came out to this long ass video. When I set out to make this, I was not expecting for it to take as long as it did. The damn script was nearly 40 pages long. 40! I am half tempted to turn this into a 2-part video, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you once again for your continued support, and I hope you'll come back for more. Love you guys. See ya.